Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're looking at fake idols that actually worked. Survivor loves their fake immunity idols, and so do we. Ever since the introduction of the immunity idol, Survivor's had dozens of player-created fakes, ranging from bona fide artistic masterpieces to sticks with faces on them. Honestly, the majority of fake idols are either a net negative or net neutral result for the crafter's game, as players often try to get too cute in using them or try to needlessly bluff players who are already on their way out the door. But sometimes the stars align and the fake idol plan works out perfectly, either by successfully tricking a player into stopping their search for a legit idol, bluffing a target off one's back, or even simply creating jury favorability with tribal council theatrics. They don't work often, but when they do, they work. So grab your fucking stick, put a rock in your pocket, and meet me at the Mysterious X as we take a look at fake immunity idols on Survivor that actually worked. At number 5 is David's fake idol trick on Jay in Survivor Millennials vs. Gen X. As the endgame of Millennials vs. Gen X approached, Jay emerged as the biggest target in the game because he was on the outside of the main alliance at this point, and he was also a significant challenge and jury threat. After wasting his idol at Final 7, Jay knows the idol's been re-hid, so he begins the idol hunt yet again, knowing that an idol or immunity are his only prayers in the game. But David outflanks him, creating a pretty legit-looking fake and leading Jay to it so he stops his idol hunt and they can safely vote him out the next round. Millennials vs. Gen X was a turning point for the way idols looked in the game. Before, idols were generally unmistakably created by production, an actual trinket with intricate designs that would not be possible by players. But in this season and beyond, idols were intentionally designed to look more low rent, like they came from Wish or something. Throw some beads on it, some string, maybe a splash of paint or two. We're good, I'm taking lunch. This was done in order to incentivize players to make more fakes and to have more fakes played. And that decision immediately paid off, as David's fake idol, some beads on a string and a coconut husk with a painted logo on it, looks pretty much like the real deal. Jay takes the bait, thinking he has a legit idol, and stops his idol hunt completely. Jay confidently plays his idol at the Final 6 Tribal, only to go home. What David did here was perfectly pull off the most common fake idol strategy, convincing a target they have an idol, so they stop looking for one. And he didn't even need to put a face on his.
It has a face on it, don't worry.
At number 4 is Dominic's Final 6 idol Bluff in Survivor Ghost Island. This will probably be the most controversial choice on this list because Dom's tribal theatrics really turned off the jury, but Dom's fake idol Bluff certainly had a hand in saving him from going home at Final 6. Dom had a real idol in his pocket, but he was bluffing that he had 2 idols, hoping to save his real one for Final 5 so he could safely punch his ticket to Final 4. At this point, Wendell, Dom, and Laurel are dead set on going to the end together, but there's a problem. The trio of Angela, Seabass, and Donathan can theoretically work together this vote to take Dom out because Seabass has an extra vote, which expires this round. They're pretty confident Dom only has 1 idol, so this would be a pretty great plan if they can pull it off. All they have to do is act natural and vote together. Where could things go wrong?
I'm just gonna have to tell you because
Come on, just tell
you're gonna get sketched out. So Sebastian has an extra vote, and they're gunning for you.
With Seabass and Donathan still potentially gunning for him, and honestly maybe Angela too, her strategy changed every time the wind blew. Dom goes really hard at Tribal trying to sell his fake idol as a real one. He even gives it to Jeff to hold, but specifically does not try to play it before the votes are cast, all to make himself look bulletproof. And in the ensuing chaos, Seabass doesn't even play his extra vote, and only Donathan sticks to the plan and votes for Dom. Now, Dom probably played things up a little too much at Tribal. A lot of the jury really found this upsetting since his ire was directed at jury faves Donathan and Seabass, and it probably cost Dom votes in the end. But still, Dom's idol bluff did get him through this round with a real idol in his pocket when he was very much on the chopping block. And good for him. I can't imagine a more embarrassing Survivor fate than getting outfoxed by Angela and Seabass. At number 3 is Bob's second fake idol in Survivor Gabon. Bob's first fake idol to embarrass Randy on his way out the door at Sugar's behest is the one that gets remembered, but it's his second fake idol which caused panic and paranoia within the majority Fong alliance, allowing him to divide and conquer in the endgame. Now, how much of this was intentional? I don't know. This is Bob we're talking about. He probably just really liked playing arts and crafts in the jungle, but this fake idol paid $1 million dividend. Bob's original plan with this fake was to bluff to the majority that he had Marcus's idol, which Marcus threw into the ocean. Bob's idea was to lie and say that Marcus secretly pocketed the idol and only threw an empty bottle into the ocean, and that Marcus's idol ended up in Bob's hands. And with immunity around his neck this round, he was going to play the idol on Corinne. He showed the fake idol to Crystal, hoping that Crystal and Kenny would join them in voting for Maddie, sparing Corinne for another day. But they just split their votes on Maddie, and Corinne went home. Anyway, doesn't sound like that great of a plan until you consider the long-term ramifications of this bluff. Kenny voting for Maddie caused this majority to completely implode, as an understandably angry Maddie confronts Kenny after Tribal, forcing Kenny and Crystal's hands into admitting that Maddie's basically on the bottom of their alliance, ultimately leading to Sugar becoming very sympathetic to Maddie, deciding that, quote, the good guys should win in the end, and she flips to form a new majority with Bob, Susie, and Maddie, giving Bob a much-needed lifeline in the game. Now, again, how much of this was intended by Bob? Probably not much. His goal with the fake was to bluff Corinne through another round, and that didn't even happen. But this did pay off big time by causing Kenny and Crystal to panic into fracturing the majority beyond repair. Now, you could argue that Bob didn't even really need this, because he just comped out from here to the end and then beat Maddie in fire. But even if you think that, you've got to admit, still a pretty decent play, even if it was inadvertent. And you know what? At least Bob had fun making the fake idol. Look at him go. He's having the time of his life. At number 2 is Xander's fake idol trick against Liana in Survivor 41. Survivor 41 introduced the Knowledge is Power advantage, an incredibly powerful advantage which allows the holder the ability to ask any one player at Tribal if they have an idol or advantage. And if they do, they must give said idol or advantage to the Knowledge is Power holder. Used properly, this is the most powerful advantage ever on Survivor. This advantage is so busted, it made Carla fear Geo. After Liana got hold of this advantage in Survivor 41 thanks to Shan, she almost immediately flipped on the Yasa Tribal Alliance at the Earn the Merge portion of the game, leaving Xander, Evie, and Tiffany on the bottom. At camp, Shan lets loose that Liana has a power which allows her to steal an idol. So right before Tribal, the Yasa 3 concoct a plan for Xander to give Tiffany his idol, and for him to instead hold a fake. At the Earn the Merge Tribal, only Evie is vulnerable from Yasa, and Liana decides to use her Knowledge is Power advantage to steal Xander's idol, so he can't play the idol on Evie.
Do you have an idol, Xander?
No, but you can have this fake.
Honestly, Hall of Fame New Era move from these three. Yasa successfully defended against the most overpowered advantage in Survivor history, and the uncertainty over whether Xander would play the idol on Evie or not caused enough chaos at Tribal that enough members of the majority just defaulted to their backup plan and sent Sydney packing, with the bonus of Deshaun wasting his extra vote here. Well played. Tiffany and Evie were not long for the game afterwards, and Xander's stock slowly plummeted as he got further into the game, but this was a genuinely inspired and iconic defensive play. And hey, at least Liana got a nice souvenir. Before we get to the best fake idol play in Survivor history, I'd like to list a few honorable mentions here. Abby Maria's fake idol bluff in Survivor Philippines was some fun, quick thinking. She bluffed that a challenge advantage she bought at the auction also had an idol. No one really bought it, though. Sierra bluffed having an idol to Katie in Survivor Blood vs. Water after Katie said she found the idol, leading to Katie immediately folding and admitting her lie. Sierra didn't even have to make anything for that to work. And both Ben and Devins used fake idols to curry favor with the jury via tribal council theatrics. Plus, we've got to give a shout out to the OG fake idol maker, humble landscaper Gary Hawkins, who reportedly made the first fake idol ever, which went unfound and unaired. You know, I can't believe they would cut this. You'd think they would try to give this guy as much screen time as possible.
In the NFL, we played against Detroit one year, and we were down by 20-some points. I threw for close to 300 yards in one quarter, and we came back and won in the last part of the game.
The best fake idol play in Survivor history is Rupert's Pocket Rock in Survivor, Heroes vs. Villains. I know, I'm shocked too. Arguably Rupert's best move in all 4 of his appearances, this fake idol just straight up saved him at Final 8, and yet it is also the simplest fake idol on this list. It's just a rock in his pocket. By this point in Heroes vs. Villains, the villains had a solid 5-3 majority and were content to pick off the remaining heroes, Colby, Rupert, and Candace. Candace heroically flipped on her alliance the prior round, so Colby and Rupert are all alone, trying to figure out a way to save themselves from joining the rest of the heroes at Ponderosa. Of all people, Rupert comes up with an ingenious plan, faking having an idol in order to bluff the villains into splitting votes. Rupert's logic is that the villains will split votes between 2 of the 3 heroes, and he and Colby can throw their votes on Candace and just pray that she's one of the 2 the villains vote for. This is Rupert we're talking about? Like Rupert of voluntarily going to exile at Final 20, constantly roaring, and the All-Stars shelter fame? That Rupert? Incredibly, Rupert's fake idol bluff, which was literally just him walking around with a rock in his pocket, works. And the villains split votes between him and Candace to play around Rupert's non-existent idol, only for Rupert and Colby's 2 extra votes on Candace to be enough to give her a hero's exit and send her to the jury. This is a strategy so good that Russell even borrows it in Redemption Island. Though, sorry Russell, Rupert did it better. You don't really see this get brought up all that much when talking about the season, but I think this fake idol bluff is probably one of the best moves of the entire season. A literal rock in Rupert's pocket inarguably bought him another round when he was otherwise dead in the water. And look, this guy knows a thing or two about nearly dying in water. Got nothing else for ya. If you'd spend all day making a fake idol for me, like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.